Hey, Slater Crusaders, America's the greatest country in the world. Thanks for being here. The name of the special is The Age of AI, Artificial Intelligence. Have you heard of ChatGPT, created by a company called OpenAI? Have you heard of this? Bing, Microsoft's search engine, they just released their new and improved Bing, powered by ChatGPT. It's a $10 billion investment. What is this? What is ChatGPT? You know who I feel like right now? I feel like these guys, this is from the Today Show in 1994. Do you remember this?
What is internet anyway?
Internet is that massive computer network, the one that's becoming really big now.
What do you mean? That's big. How does one? What do you write to it like mail?
No, a lot of people use it and communicate. I guess they can communicate with NBC writers and producers. Allison, can you explain what internet is?
Isn't that amazing? What is internet? That's us. That's me right now with artificial intelligence. It's like a total idiot, not even using the right words, like forgetting the word the for some reason in between. Like total ignorance. What is ChatGPT? Like in 10 years, they'll be playing this clip. Like there's this idiot who didn't know what ChatGPT was. We got to figure this out because it's inevitable and it's completely world changing. Completely world changing. Just, all right, 100 years ago. Okay, 100 years ago, 1923, you had your Model T. All right, that was the big technology of the day. The radio was invented, silent movies, electronic traffic signals, the refrigerator. These were the grand inventions of 1923. So you go back 100 years ago from today, right? That dramatic difference in technological advancement over 100 years where they just invented the refrigerator, it is going to be even more massive over the next 10 years. So as massive of a leap as it was from 1923 to today, it's going to be even more than that until now to 2033. Think about it like this. This was Times Square 100 years ago, okay? So imagine you're walking around Times Square 100 years ago, and then you get teleported to today, and you see this. Your head would explode. You'd have no clue what the heck is going on. The same thing is going to happen to us in 10 years walking around our world. Have you seen these 3D billboards that are in Times Square now? Check this out. Like that is, like what is that? How can that be real life? It's a 3D billboards. 10 years from now, that'll be nothing. That'll be nothing. And the greatest change in our lives are going to be artificial intelligence. It's going to be the absolute greatest change in our life. By 2025, it's believed, that's just like 2 years away, by the way, 90% of what you read online is going to be generated by artificial intelligence, not written by a real person. Very soon, the music you listen to is going to be written and performed by a computer. There are already models on the internet that are just made up by an algorithm. It's just a made up algorithm of a fake person, and no one can tell. Michaela on Instagram has 3 million followers. That's not a real person. Microsoft has a new technology that after just 3 seconds of hearing a voice, can recreate the voice and have it say whatever you want it to say. It's called VALL-E, V-A-L-L-E. Here's Joe Biden.
Hello, this is an AI-generated voice clone of President Joe Biden. This voice clone was trained using audio of Biden's speeches downloaded from YouTube, and this audio was generated in a matter of seconds.
How are you going to know what's real? How are you going to know what a politician actually says or didn't say? That's life-changing stuff right here. So ChatGPT, it's an AI that you can use for free right now, and you can tell it to write anything. We'll explain with our next guest exactly how this works. But you can ask ChatGPT to write a newspaper article in the style of a New York Times reporter, and it'll just write the article. And it's better than a New York Times reporter. Why have reporters? Why have anyone think anything? Why have any new thoughts? Just ChatGPT it, and it just comes up with an answer. That sure is easier than thinking. And they can now have it just put right into your brain. This is Neuralink. We did a special on Neuralink a couple of years ago. And my concern is that no one's asking any questions about this. And I'm not here to scare you. It's inevitable, it's happening. I'm here to prepare you, prepare all of us. We need to know how to think about this. Otherwise, we're going to be steamrolled by it. And we won't know it until it's too late. So Elon Musk's big project is not Tesla, it's Neuralink. This video is from like 2 or 3 years ago. This is a monkey with a computer chip inserted into its brain that can play a video game, in this case Pong, using just its brain. It doesn't need to move a joystick to move it. He just thinks where it goes, just With the computer chip in his brain, he just thinks, right? Why? Why is Elon Musk doing this? Elon Musk said the greatest inhibitor of technological progress right now, it's not the computer software, it's not the computer chips, it's the human thumb. It's the speed of the human thumb. You can only type so fast on your screen. But if you can get rid of this, the middle step of your thumbs, and you can just think something and it sends to someone else's brain, computer chip in a brain, and someone else can think something and just goes right in your brain, or you can just ask a question and it just instantly appears in your brain. You don't have to type into ChatGPT a question. You just ask a question and it automatically gets inserted into your brain. That's Neuralink. And it's already here. Right now he says it's for paralyzed people. Right? You'll be able to move your limbs. Right? Great. That's the first couple iterations. But eventually everyone will be hooked up to the Neuralink, just like we're all now hooked up to the internet, like the Today Show was talking about not too long ago, just in 1994. Amazing. One of the goals of the Neuralink, we'll talk about in the last segment, is to have a universal language. We'll talk about that coming up in a little bit. This idea that, we'll talk about that later. Elon says you can just send complex thoughts from brain to brain. And he said to the point where there'll be no more need to talk. There's no talking. And he says maybe you can talk for sentimental reasons. Just like you have like a fire pit in your backyard. You don't need a fire, but you just do it for fun. That's what talking will be. You don't need to talk anymore. Amazing. We're going to talk about some problems with this a little later. But I wanted to share where AI is going. We're already here. This is not like, well, in 50 years. Elon says we're already part cyborg. Where's your phone? Shing! Right here. Is your phone ever more than connected to your leg? We already have missing limb syndrome. If your phone's away from you for a little bit, you feel naked, you feel like you're missing a part of your body already. We're already part cyborg. Elon's right about that. Kid today who's no different than a phone can't be away from it for more than a millisecond. It's already a part of you. So why not just put it right in your brain? It'll be 1 trillion times faster if it's just in your brain than it is right now. Think about it. Right now, if I want to look up something on my phone, I gotta pick it up, I gotta open it up, I gotta unlock, okay, passcode, okay, scroll up, scroll over, Gmail, okay, that took way too long. Just bing, right in my head. That's Neuralink. Before we take a break here, we get to our guests, who's gonna, in great detail, explain exactly what ChatGPT is, talk about transhumanism, what the ultimate goal is, all that good stuff. And then we're gonna talk to a guest about how to talk about this, how to think about this from a Christian perspective, a Christian worldview versus the Silicon Valley atheist worldview. Very important to know the difference. But I want to talk about this from about how to think about artificial intelligence. How do we even think about new technology? Artificial intelligence being the new one. I stole these thoughts from Neil Postman. He's a brilliant man. You should read all of his books. They're great. He has 4 things we need to think about when it comes to technology. One of his main books is Amusing Ourselves to Death. Start with that one. 4 things we need to think about. First, technology changes everything. If you take a cup of water and you drop 1 drop of red dye into it, what happens? Do you have clear water plus a drop of red dye? Obviously not. You got a whole new coloration of every water molecule. You now have red water. A new technology doesn't just add something, it changes everything. In the year 1500, after the printing press was invented, you did not have old Europe plus the printing press. You had a different Europe. After television, America was not America plus television. It was a whole new America. It affected everything. So we're not going to have America plus artificial intelligence. It's going to be a whole new world, one that's unrecognizable. Second thing to think about, there's always trade-offs. Most people think of a new technology as only a good. We never think about the disadvantages or the costs of a new technology. We never think about what we lose with a new technology. Maybe people think about the jobs lost, but you lose a lot more than just that. We think of what a new technology will do, but we don't take the time to think about what a new technology will undo. We'll talk about this more with our guests coming up. The third thing we need to think about is technology changes how you think. People used to sit and watch 3 hours of Lincoln Douglas debates, and now political TV commercials are 30 seconds. That's because of television. And now because of social media, it's even shorter than that. It's changed how we think. Now people complain about how long Avatar is. It's 3 hours of in-your-face sensory overload explosion like never before in human history. And people are like, it's too long. We used to sit and listen to complex political discussions for longer than that, and now we can't. It's changed how we think. I think for the worse. AI will do just the same. And fourth, people think technology is inevitable. They're like, well, of course we invented the refrigerator. Of course we invented the TV. Of course we invented the computer. Of course we invented the internet. Of course that was going to happen. And the problem with that thinking, which is wrong, but the problem with that thinking is when you think something is naturally occurring, like, well, of course the computer, right? Then the idea of putting a limit on it not only never crosses your mind, but if someone brings it up, it's like they're like appalled, right? So if the government said, hey, we're gonna only broadcast television from 5 to 11 p.m., people would be like, what? That's outrageous. Whenever a new technology comes around, any limit proposed is off the table. Like when iPads first started, the education industrial complex was like, iPads for every kid in every classroom across the country. And everyone was like, great, gotta do it. No questions asked. It's like, whoa, how about we slow down here? I'll save the rest for the guests, but just know technology changes everything, including how you think. People think it's only good, but it's our job to ask, what will this new technology undo? What are the trade-offs? And then, if you think it's worth it, we still have to protect our families from the negatives as long as we can. Coming up next, detailed analysis. What is ChatGPT? You'll know more than anyone. You'll be able to explain it to your friends. That's next. Spread the word.
We have never made any revenue. We have no current plans to make revenue. We have no idea how we may one day generate revenue. We have made a soft promise to investors that once we've built this sort of generally intelligent system, basically we will ask it to figure out a way to generate an investment return for you. It sounds like an episode of Silicon Valley. It really does. I get it. You can laugh. It's all right. But it is what I actually believe.
I love it. He's like, that's not a joke, people. That was Sam Altman. That's the guy behind ChatGPT. That was actually 4 years ago. No one heard of ChatGPT then. Now we all have. And if you haven't yet, well, here's your introduction. Joe Allen is here. He's the transhumanism editor at War Room. Joe, wonderful to talk to you, brother.
Mike, very glad to be here. Thank you very much.
We got lots to break down here, so please talk down to me. Talk to me like I'm a third grader. What is ChatGPT?
ChatGPT is a chatbot. It's a large language model that just simply means that it uses statistical models to predict what the next sentence or the next sentence in a paragraph or the next word in a sentence might be. What's amazing about it is that using these algorithms via a neural network, a sort of virtual brain, you could say, loosely, it's able to produce answers to questions that are coherent, oftentimes accurate, generally grammatically correct. And what that means, to the extent that it's accurate, a chatbot is very useful for students who are doing research or anyone on a research project, or just the general consumer to ask it a question about anything that you might ask, say, Google about. What it also means is that because of this sort of natural banter that it evokes, you get a human-machine interaction that is a lot more intimate, a lot deeper. And in my view, these sorts of technologies, these chatbots or large language models, are pushing us closer and closer to that sort of human-AI symbiosis that transhumanists have long dreamt of. You have now a system in which you will ask the bot, you'll ask the AI deep questions about reality, and a lot of people will trust that that response is both accurate and in some sense benevolent.
Oh, okay. This is so important because how long has Google been around? 15 years or so? And if you think about it, that's actually pretty primitive, where you type in a question and it gives you a bunch of websites. You're still having to filter, which is like a good thing though, but you're like, from their perspective, it's bad because you're still having to think, filter, scroll, find, click a couple windows. It's a process. But what you're saying here is you can now type in something and it just gives you the answer, streamlining that whole process. Is that accurate?
That's right. And in general, I think that's the way most of these tech companies are trying to move. OpenAI created ChatGPT, from their GPT system, generative pre-trained transformer. And this GPT system has improved steadily. GPT-3 was pretty incredible. Now GPT 3.5, or what we know as ChatGPT, has shown a lot of promise, not only in the technical capabilities, but in the way it has grabbed the public imagination. So now you have Google, of course, jumping into the fray with Bard, although it really flopped so far. You also have Chinese company Baidu. They're jumping in. I think that because of this natural interaction and because it saves a lot of time, the machine, in essence, does your thinking for you. All of these tech companies want to move in that direction.
Yes. So take us, I like how you said transhumanism, because people need to know what this is, because these Silicon Valley people, this is their ultimate goal. So let's jump all the way to the end. Let's jump to their ultimate dystopian, I would say, sci-fi vision of transhumanism, and then we can kind of connect some dots and see where we are on that path, because this ChatGPT is definitely another step, as you said. And I'm curious how many more steps we have to go, but where is the go? What's the ultimate goal here for these people?
Very basically, transhumanism is the desire to merge human beings with technology, to merge humans with machines. A big part of this is to create machines that have human-level intelligence or also human-level capabilities to manipulate the physical world. It also means augmenting human beings gradually, or once the technology is there, they hope, suddenly, so that human beings increase their biological intelligence and biological dexterity and strength and beauty and so forth, as these machines also come closer and closer to parity with human beings. So transhumanism is the idea that we as human beings are in transition towards a goal. Those in the singularity camp see that we're on a path towards a moment in history in which machines are both more intelligent than human beings and also more capable physically of enacting their will than human beings. And therefore, human beings will no longer really be able to comprehend the output of the machines, nor will we really be able to control it, which is why you hear a lot about AI alignment. It's the idea that if we align these artificial intelligences with human will now, by the time they reach this sort of godlike state, they will be benevolent gods. Mo Gaudat at Google, the former chief business officer, described Google system as God as a child, basically. And that's how a lot of these people see it. Views are very diverse, but it's sort of a heterodox religion that sits at the core of many of the projects in Silicon Valley, and then by extension in China, also India, Israel, all over Europe. So this is a very prevalent, if diffuse, ideology.
Yeah, well, these people generally do not believe in God, so it makes sense that they're trying to replace God with this. You said something earlier that when the ChatGPT churns something out, and I've done it, it's free for now, and I've typed in, I give pro-life speeches around the country, so I said, write a pro-life speech from the perspective of, and I just tried all these different things. I did goofy ones, from a Western perspective, and it started with howdy y'all, pro-life, and it was a really good opening couple paragraphs of a speech. It was really good to do. Anyway, you said people will assume that it's true, whatever is said. I want to play this clip here of Sam Altman talking about ChatGPT and eradicating racism with it here.
Could we tell the agent, don't be racist, right? And as opposed to trying to figure out all the different things where the weird correlative data that exists on all the training set and everything else may lead to racist outcomes, it could actually, in fact, do a self-cleansing.
totally. Once the model gets smart enough that that it really understands what racism looks like and how complex that is, you can say, don't be racist.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so who's in charge of the AI? In this case, how does it determine what is racist, what is not racist, and who writes that code?
Yeah, there's two concepts you really have to keep in mind here. One, the goal of AI is to create a system that operates on its own, right? It's a non-deterministic algorithm, meaning that the input doesn't necessarily lead to defined output, right? There's a fuzzy logic there, meaning that the AI can come back with anything that statistically it feels, so to speak, would be the appropriate answer. And so AI notices a lot of very uncomfortable patterns about biology, a lot of uncomfortable patterns about intelligence. It notices uncomfortable patterns about gender. And this is quite famous. This happens all the time. This is why you have AI ethicists to make sure that AI is neither racist, sexist, nor homophobic, right? And so the programmers at OpenAI, initially, ChatGPT was fairly even-handed. A lot of conservatives were very, very excited about this because they thought finally we have a machine that will give us a balanced view as opposed to Wikipedia or Google. But seeing this and also having the sort of interaction with users on a large scale, the AI was given guardrails, so to speak, to keep it from saying certain things. You hear Altman there talking about racism. That's one of many, many issues in which that's the case. I was on Charlie Kirk the other day. He asked it if conservatives should have freedom of speech. And it basically said, no, conservatives are hateful, to paraphrase. This wasn't initially the case. The fuzzy logic was in effect. Now you have these guardrails, meaning that those who control those parameters, those who put their programmer bias into the system, are able to guide the output of the system that is being trusted by, at this point, 100 million people to give accurate answers.
Yeah, and you cannot trust it. At least that's my take. And I'll have you wrap up with this, Joe, because you've been wonderful. Great introduction, all this. Do these ethicists, these people at OpenAI and all the rest, Google, Microsoft, are there people there thinking about the trade-offs? Are they even contemplating what the negatives of this could be, as Neil Postman talked about, not only what is done with the new technology, but what is undone? Are they thinking about these things? And then that being said, how should we think about these things?
They absolutely are thinking about these things. They just make the decision that benefits them. So if you look at Sam Altman's essay, Moore's Law of Everything, he takes on the challenges that these artificial intelligences pose to humanity. At the other end of it, though, he believes we'll have some sort of radical abundance, a sort of digital utopia. That sits at the core of it. Elon Musk, who was an initial investor in OpenAI, he argues that woke AI will be a sort of dangerous AI. And I would agree, although Elon Musk simply wants to drive it forward according to his interests and his aesthetics or his desires. The question I think that we should be asking is whether we want to live in a society where the human-machine relationship is so tight that we begin to behave as if these machines are in some sense human, and will we become in some sense more mechanical in the process? I believe so. People, these guys are utopians. They believe technology will solve human problems. But to bring Neil Postman back, he argued that human problems don't have technological solutions. You aren't going to solve social conflict or any of the sorts of existential dreads or desires that we have by adding more computation onto it. I think that, to me, is the appropriate framing.
As Elon said, we're already part cyborg. Everyone's phone is right here. Like, we're already connected to it, and it's made us more machine, I believe, to your point earlier. Wonderful. Joe Allen, transhumanism editor at War Room. Joe, we have lots more to talk about with this, and I'm grateful you could be there for it.
Thank you very much. I'm very glad you guys are covering this.
Yeah, yes, sir. Let's come back. Let's look at this from a Christian worldview. How are we to interpret all this stuff from a Christian worldview? Because everything Joe is saying, it's so obvious. And I mean, we can wrap up because as Joe's talking, I'm like, Tower of Babel, Tower of Babel. It's like to a T. We'll talk about that later as well. Next, Mike Slater, spread the word.
5-second impression of a snapping turtle coming out of its shell. Did I mess up my hair? Nope.
Yeah, so that's not real. That was a made-up, fake artificial intelligence thing of Tom Cruise. The battle for reality is unbelievable. People are not going to be able to know what's real and what's not. We have a tough enough time with it as it is. Luke Avery is here. His YouTube channel is Lambda Bible Studies. Please follow that. Luke, how are you, sir? Wonderful to talk to you.
Yeah, really excited to be here. It's a very prescient topic, isn't it?
I'd say the most. I think it's the most important for the next maybe decade or so. Is it's going to permeate everything, including the church. So I need to get a Christian biblical perspective on this. From a worldview perspective, how should Christians view artificial intelligence?
Yeah, I think there are some worries that are perfectly founded, and it's understandable that Christians should be concerned about it. There's other things that Christians, I think, uniquely don't need to worry about. There are some concerns about AI replacing humans, and there's things I believe that God has created in us that's impossible for us to replicate. In a way, artificial intelligence is teaching us more about what it means to be human. So it's very interesting to think about.
Yeah, that's good. I love the optimistic take on it. Speak more to that.
Yeah.
How can it teach us how to be more human? Because I'm definitely on the dystopian side right now, and I don't want to be. So how can it teach us to be more human?
Yeah, I've made that my mission a little bit recently to try to find the light. You know, every cloud has that silver lining, and I think one of the interesting effects of AI is that people feel threatened in their humanity. And it's interesting to think if artificial intelligence is the same as humanity, it really just means humanity equals intelligence. But there's more to us than just our intelligence. And by understanding the difference between talking to a chatbot, for example, and talking to a real person, real flesh and blood, I think we understand that God's made us more than just calculating, processing machines. And, you know, it should drive us to appreciate real human connections over whatever synthetic artificial things that we might interact with.
100%. It should. And I always say real life's better than fake life. But I don't think it does. I don't think Elon Musk said, you know, we're already part cyborg. We're already connected to our phones. And I think our phones have robbed us of humanity and relationships and all the rest. So I don't see why just this on like fentanyl times 1,000 with artificial intelligence, we'd be any wiser about it, you know? I'm sorry, I'm just gonna keep being negative to you.
No, I think that's good, because these are the negative thoughts all of us are having going through our head, confronted with this new technology. And I guess in a sense we're confronted with two paths. Do we go down the route, the very tempting route of artificial reality, you know, the things that are like artificial foods that are fundamentally not nutritious, but are so convenient, seem so powerful and alluring, but is a dark path. I'd like to think that as the technology becomes more obviously dystopian, actually it will push people to realize the significance to take another path consciously and move away from that. So whereas we're approaching a point where we can replicate to a large degree human interaction digitally, we'll never get to a point where it's a healthy replacement. And I actually want it to be that trigger for people to say, I need to invest in my actual family, my actual friends, and, you know, get out of that digital box.
Yes, in ways it's already done that to me. The worse things get, the more obvious it is to reject. And I hope people choose that. Let's talk about the soul. Correct me if I'm wrong, but this is kind of my thinking with this. A lot of atheists, we were talking about Silicon Valley people, they believe evolution and we're all about the brain. And we're just like chemical reactions in the brain, and that's all that matters. So we're gonna like replicate the brain forever in an artificial intelligence. But the Christians understand there's a soul. There's more to life than just your brain. But people don't use that language. We don't talk about the soul anymore, even though this artificial intelligence is soulless. Can you give me some more words to understand these important concepts?
Yeah, a lot of the experts in artificial intelligence, the people who've been ringing the alarm bells, fundamentally have a belief set that comes out of the Enlightenment, where they truly believe that humanity and consciousness and emotions and all of these things are nothing but the collision of particles creating emergent properties. As Christians, I think we can push back on that and say, not only is that intuitively ridiculous, but actually we believe that the reason that we have this unique experience of conscious experience is because we're made in the image of God. And so, although, well, this is the fear, I guess, that they say, well, you're only a brain, and a brain is just processing, so we can create that in silicon. And there's no reason that we couldn't recreate a human. We just need smarter computers. I think as Christians, we've got reason to say, actually, no, the brain is not just a processing machine that produces humanity, but we have the breath of life breathed into us by God. And there's something divine. There's a whole spiritual realm that is fundamentally, philosophically, at a deep level, different from what can be created in silicon on a computer.
If we can tap into that, it's a whole new level of truth and wisdom that people won't have. I lament that.
It's been one of the ways that the devil has lied to us for, however many hundred years into thinking that we live in this kind of soulless box. So once again, to be the voice of optimism here, that lie, I think, will start to unfold. Will probably be replaced by another lie of some sort, and maybe we will get more dark spiritual attacks. But at least I think people are starting to, in a sense, their fear about AI comes from a deep, unsettling feeling that they've been lied to, and that they're starting to uncover that lie for themselves.
I got to bring up Neil Postman in every segment now, so I got to bring it to you. Our last guest mentioned, Neil Postman said something like, the problems of humanity can't be solved with technological solutions. Can you speak to that?
Think about the book of Ecclesiastes, which says that there is nothing new under the sun. Is there anything of which it can be said, this did not previously exist? It did exist in the ages before, and it will exist again. And I really do believe that's true. People think that there are new problems created by social media. They're actually just the same old problems that society has always had. Maybe they're superpowered, but the same core reality of human existence is pretty much continuous. I mean, that's why we read ancient literature and it feels so fresh and up to date, because the realities of human experience are the same. So to some degree, even though challenges will arise, perhaps AI will lead to people losing their jobs. Perhaps AI will lead to increased governmental totalitarian control. These are all legitimate issues for Christians to fear. But we do know that deep down, our contentment should come from Christ. We know that God is in control of all of reality, and he will inevitably bring about his victory in the end. I was actually just reading earlier today about Jesus talking about the end times in the book of Matthew, and he was talking about there's wars and rumors of wars and all of these terrifying things. Then he actually says there's no, don't be troubled by it, for these things must come to pass. And in a sense, in the big, scary, unknown future with all this AI, I think that's the attitude that we should have, that we shouldn't let our hearts be troubled. Who can add an hour to his life by worrying, right? But actually, God's got all of this. He's not taken by surprise by this new technology. He'll bring good out of it.
No, that's true. We must believe it's true. My last question for you, to go back to the soul, the uncanny valley. So for those who don't know, it's the idea that when you look at a mannequin or something, it looks real, everything looks real, but something about the eyes. They can't quite get the eyes right. But they're getting the eyes right, Luke, like that clip we played, right? They're starting to, And I've seen like
It's a valley.
AI
You can go
people.
up the other end, yeah.
Exactly, right? And there's like AI art. So like they'll just type in like draw a painting and it'll be like a painting. And it's like pretty good. Like they're getting better and better. But here's what I'm saying. I still want there to be an uneasiness in me. I still want to be able to look at an artificial thing and say that's not real, that's not right. But I'm worried it's going to get so good and I'm going to get so desensitized to it that I'm not even going to know the difference. And then the worst thing is you don't even really care. Can you give me some advice on that?
Yeah, I guess in terms of the recognition, never discount how incredible we are at pattern recognition. Early CGI to us is extremely quick. We can detect it in the flash of an eye, right? But at the time, the audiences were wowed. So I actually think we will get better at picking out what the AI is doing and spotting it.
Smart.
That uncanny valley effect, actually we will become more sophisticated and the valley becomes harder to cross. The other thing I wanted to mention was that we are in the image of God, and in a sense, the things that we create are always in the image of us. It's an image of an image, and like a series of photocopies, there's always some degradation. If it's done with the right attitude, it's not even necessarily a bad thing to do if it's to the glory of God. But the AI that we make is one way we image ourselves, but so is our hand painted portraits. So is a story that we tell that captures some essence of humanity. So I think we should recognize, as you say, and remember that it is only an image of us. But we don't need to fear it as a completely cataclysmic, a difference in type. It's just the new expression of humanity that's coming onto the scene.
That's right. Much more fair. I will need your optimism in these years to come. Luke Avery, YouTube channel is Lambda Bible Studies. I hope we can talk again, sir.
Great. Thank you very much. Bye.
Let's come back and talk about how, again, nothing new under the sun. It's just the Tower of Babel. That's it. Joe Rogan and Elon Musk were talking about the Tower of Babel. They didn't even know it. You'll know it next. Spread the word. Hey, Slater Crusaders, welcome back to our special. We have a podcast. It's called Politics by Faith. And one of the themes of the podcast is, as our last guest said, there's nothing new under the sun. It's true. This is Elon Musk, founder of Neuralink, among others, and Joe Rogan. And they're talking about how computer chips in your brains, what's next for human beings. And they're using language, they're using biblical language and themes. They don't even know it. Here.
If you taught a child from first grade on how to use some new universal language, I mean, essentially like a Rosetta Stone, and something that's done that interprets your thoughts, and you can convey your thoughts with no room for interpretation, with very clear, where you know what a person's saying, and you can tell them what you're saying, and there's no need for noises, no need for mouth noises, no need for these sort of accepted ways that we've sort of evolved to make sounds that we all agree. We through our cultural dictionary, and we agree, or we could bypass all that.
Yeah, we can still do it for
fun,
sentimental reasons,
right? Like campfires.
Yeah, exactly. You don't need campfires. And you don't need to roast marshmallows, but it's kind of fun.
Right.
We won't need language. We won't need to talk to people. I mean, right now, if you go to Japan, you can use your phone, say, hey, where's the bathroom? And then it'll translate it into Japanese, and you can show it to the person, right? But eventually, you won't even need to talk. You won't need to say it out loud. You just say it to the person through your brain, through the Neuralink. You wouldn't even need to talk. You wouldn't even need to ask someone because you would just know where the bathrooms are. It just goes, right? So you wouldn't need any human interaction. One language, the same language, and no human interaction necessary. Everything you would need to know is on the internet, connected to you constantly. Keep in mind also, if you're connected to the internet, then the internet's connected to you. And it will tell you what to think about everything. Also, this chip that is connected to your brain, it changes the electric impulses in your brain. It also changes the hormones in your body. So the government or whoever wants everyone to be a little bit happier, a little bit more positive attitude, a little better morale, a little bit more compliant. Just give everyone a little dopamine boost. Why not? It's perfectly dystopian. Why ever move? Just live in a little box of fluid. You can connect to the metaverse with AI, live like you're in the Matrix. Okay, the biblical points. Universal language that Elon and Joe were just talking about, that's Tower of Babel to a T. Genesis 11, it's after the flood. Genesis 11:1. Now the whole earth had one language and the same words. So they had perfect unity. The problem was they were unified in their pride and wickedness, and there was no one around to stop them. One reason Hitler was stopped, for instance, is because there was an America. There was a force to stop him. But if we were all under the same wicked, evil leader, there would be no one to stop it. And if there is, one day there will be one globalist world hoarder with one leader and government power, there's no way to stop that corruption. And that's what the globalists want. World unity is a curse. In the time of the Tower of Babel, the leader was Nimrod, means rebel. And in the Bible, it says he's a mighty hunter. But the word actually means warrior, because he was a hunter of people, is what that means. He was a mass murderer. And no one was around to check his power. All the people were unified. So be very skeptical of the people who want one world government, one ruling power, and even one language, like our friend Elon Musk. So they in Babel were in complete unity. And then they said, come, let us. Some famous words in the Bible, come, let us. In their pride and ambition and wickedness, come, let us insert microchips into people's brains. Come, let us have ChatGPT that just does all the thinking for us. Come, let us come up with transhumanist lives. Why not? Come, let us build for ourselves a city and a tower whose top will reach the heaven, and let us make a name for ourselves. So what we have there in the Bible is a social goal. That's the city. We're going to make a city, a social goal. A religious goal, a tower to heaven. And a psychological goal. We're going to make a name for ourselves. A city, a tower, a name. Social goal, religious goal, psychological goal. How are they going to do it? Why, of course, with new technology. What new technology? Bricks. That's technology. Everything was invented at one point. Like the alphabet was invented. Things were invented. Everything's been invented. Bricks were invented. They used to build things out of stones, something that God just gave them. They were just there. But there were no stones where they were in Babel. So they invented bricks. Verse 3, it's 11 verse 3. Come, let us make bricks and burn them thoroughly. And they had bricks for stone and bitumen for mortar. Ancient Jewish teaching says that if someone fell from a building of the tower that they were building, they would not mourn the loss of life. But if someone dropped a brick, they would mourn the loss of the brick. That was their level of devotion to the new technology. They valued it more than human life. Technology was valued more than people. So they used a new technology to organize the people and worship themselves, make a name for themselves. And God stopped them and said, behold, they are one people, and they all have one language, Joe Rogan. And this is only the beginning of what they will do. And nothing that they propose to do will now be impossible for them. Come, let us go down and confuse their language so that they may not understand one another's speech. And that's when God scattered people all over the earth and created different languages. Stopped the building of the tower, to say the least. Elon wants to undo that with artificial intelligence and Neuralink. Undo it, where we all speak the same computer language and we're all connected to the same matrix, dare I say, with one ruler, one leader, certainly godless. Why? So that we can make a name for ourselves. One final point. Godless people, these godless people believe in evolution. They think we're just a collection of electric currents in the brain, chemical reactions. That's it. They truly believe that's what we are. Elon talks about, he calls it save state. S-A-V-E, save state. And the idea is that you die, but you can use artificial intelligence to continue on in this pseudo-consciousness. And you can be put into a new biological being and live forever and never even know the difference. You never even know that you died. And no one else would even know you died because they could still communicate with this AI version of you, this algorithm made up of you, So you lived your life and there's enough data there so that the AI would know how you would respond or react to things forever in the future. And you wouldn't even know the difference, and no one else would know the difference as well. Pretty amazing. Pretty horrific. And Rogan's like, hey, that's a little disconcerting to think that you could just be a brain in a vat of fluid and not know what's real or not. And Elon said, you're already a brain in a vat of fluid. That's who these godless people think you are. That's how these godless people view human beings. I often think of a conversation we had years ago on this show with a world-famous psychologist. His name's Roy Baumeister. And I asked him what the bombardment, he has a book called The Power of Bad. And I said, what does this bombardment of bad news do to the human soul? I'll never forget it. And he said, well, social psychologists don't like to talk about the soul, but I can tell you what it does to the brain. And it's like, listen, that's kind of interesting, but it's way more interesting to know what it does to the soul. No one talks about the soul anymore. I beg of you, if you get nothing else from this special, feed your soul. AI is not a soul. It has no soul. It can never recreate the soul. Everything made by AI is missing something. It's missing a soul behind it. Do not lose your sensitivity to that. The soul is essential. The soul is everything. Do not ignore it. I was talking to Oliver Lane the other day. He's the Breitbart London correspondent. Because on his Twitter, he has a lot of stuff about art and architecture. And I asked him why he cares so much. Why do you care so much about art and beauty? Here's what he said.
Well, what you and I do day to day at work is intellectual essentially. It's politics of the brain. But when it comes to aesthetics and architecture, that speaks to the soul. And you cannot win one without the other. To save civilization, we have to have both. So that's where I express that.
Can't have one without the other. Can't win one without the other. Be very wary of the people saying, come, let us make artificial intelligence. And feed your soul. It's the most important thing. It's the most neglected thing. And it's the thing they want more than anything. As Solomon said, above all else, guard your heart, for it is the wellspring of life. Mike Slater, spread the word.